Got coffee.
No. Okay. We restarted the town's recording of proceeding, and we are ready to go back on the hearing record. Mr. Delpolo?
Thank you. Ms. Todd, I'd like to turn your attention to the issue of what happened after the June 11th, 2025 Town Council meeting. Do you recall your direct examination answers regarding that particular council meeting?
Can you refresh my memory a little bit about the
I
meeting?
will do my best. So I believe that was the meeting where there was an exchange about the canine and some issues with the canine, and then that's the one where there was a statement asserted by the chief that he overheard you cursing. Do you recall that
Yes,
one?
yes.
Okay. So in your direct examination testimony, certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you said that you may have cursed, but that you weren't cursing. Could you explain what you mean by that?
I may have said curse words, but I wasn't cursing at the chief.
Okay, so you would agree then, you would not dispute the fact that you were using profanity after a town meeting with a door?
I would say maybe one or two curse words, probably yes, but I wasn't just spitting out a whole lot of curse words.
Understood. And you said that it wasn't about the chief?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you recall anything about what happened earlier on that day, on that June 11th town council meeting?
At the meeting,
Yes.
not specifically. If I had the minutes or something, it probably would come back. I honestly don't remember. I know there was a discussion, I believe, about the canine.
And do you recall anything about, to move ahead a little bit, the July town council meeting?
You'd have to refresh my memory. Yeah, I don't remember what happened each day, so if you could tell me a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, specifically I wanted to know, because there was some testimony by another witness yesterday about how there was an exchange and you responded back questioning, saying Mr. Mayor. I believe after the mayor said Miss Todd. Do you recall that exchange?
I remember hearing it yesterday, and I remember an exchange, but I don't remember the topic off the top of my head.
Understood. Were you frustrated at the time that you were responding? Do you recall at all?
I probably was.
Okay. And how do you typically address when you're frustrated? What do you
mean
do?
verbalizing, or?
Do you verbalize it? Do you have any other ways that you try to address it?
I usually, I'm a address it face to face while it's happening.
Understood.
That makes sense.
Yes. Do you recall ever talking over council members while they're trying to ask you questions?
I don't recall, but I'm not saying that I did not.
Something that could have happened.
Possibly.
I want to ask him for a moment about this issue with Mr. Kenton. Do you recall your testimony about that during direct examination?
I do.
You said something about how you have a personal relationship with Mr. Kenton?
I do.
Okay. What, if anything, does that personal relationship have to do with the email exchange back and forth from your town email address about hunting on Mr. Kenton's property?
I'm not sure I understand. You mean, is that the only relationship I have with him about the hunting?
Yeah, like I'm asking, you offered during your direct examination testimony, after questioning, that you have a personal relationship with Mr. Kenton. And I'm asking, from your perspective as town manager, as the chief administrative officer of the town, what significance, if any, you think you having a personal relationship with Mr. Kenton has to your back and forth with him in email about hunting on his property? Like, do you think the personal relationship, by way of example, justifies that exchange back and forth?
I seen Mr. Kenton more as a friend than I did a developer, if that's your question.
Okay. And you would agree with me that at the time that you were discussing hunting and engaging in that emailing, that he had questions about items that the town may do or pending issues before the town?
Yes, he would occasionally ask me questions, yes.
Right, and it was in the same, sometimes in the same email chain or sometimes around the same time that you were going back and forth about the hunting, right?
I don't know if it was the same days, I don't know the dates.
When did you first ask Mr. Kenton if your husband could hunt on his property?
My husband has been hunting there 3 or 4 years.
Okay, so he started hunting there, while you were serving as town manager.
Yes,
And do you recall when you had the discussion with Mr. Kenton about him doing that?
at a Sussex County Sussex County something, Association of Realtors breakfast.
So there was it was a breakfast in front of, I guess it was a public breakfast that that association was having?
It was an association of realtors, and I had my real estate Maryland, Delaware real estate license.
Understood. And I believe at one point in time, there were emails going back and forth, and then they're in the exhibits. But there were emails going back and forth about your husband placing a no trespassing sign,
Yes,
and that offer to place the no trespassing sign came from your town email address to Mr. Kenton.
yes, he had requested my husband put up no trespassing signs.
Understood. Do you know why he didn't just request that of your husband directly, or why he was going through you?
He really talks to me more than he does my husband, we still talk till today, he talks to my husband as well.
Okay. I want to ask a little bit about the handbook again, and I believe it's Bates in the black binder, Bates 423.
Which tab?
I'll tell you as soon as I'm there. I believe it's tab 18. So you see here where it says, town agreement employees or officers are not allowed to receive gifts or gratuities in any personal or professional capacity that could even create the impression that the giver was seeking favor or trying, that the giver was seeking favor or trying to influence an opinion or judgment from the employee or official. Do you see that section?
I do.
Okay. Do you believe that a member of the public who's just, if someone were to see this email chain with Mr. Kenton, and then there are emails in your inbox going back and forth about variances and what the town may be doing with its position on various things and so on. There's topics in there about that, and then there's topics in there about your husband hunting on his private property, Greenwood property, right?
Yes.
Happening at the same time. What is your view of how you think a member of the public might take that?
Anyone familiar with the inner workings of the town would know would have no influence over his project at all. I have no votes, Carolyn handles the zoning, I have nothing. And, my husband wouldn't have anything to gain on maybe a deer.
So as the town manager, you don't have any discussion with anyone on any of the boards that oversees those processes?
Carolyn handles all that.
So you would not have access to any board members to talk to
If
them?
I wanted to talk to them, yes, I could.
Okay, and you're the town manager of the town, right?
Correct.
So is it your position that a discussion with a board member about something you'd like to see happen, if that were to occur, that's not some sort of exertion of influence? In other words, you're saying, there's nothing to see here because I don't vote or handle those things. That's basically your position, correct?
Correct.
But you would agree that as the town manager, you have the ability to converse and interact with board members as you choose,
Correct.
right? It's not like you're barred from discussing things with board members.
Correct.
And in fact, wasn't there a board member who came here and said that every time he asked you to do anything, that you were very helpful and always very well prepared and all that sort of thing?
Earlier today?
Yes.
Yes.
And there was another board member for a different board who came and said the same thing.
Correct.
So you'd agree with me, in fact, that you have interactions with board members who are overseeing matters involving property use and so on in front of the town?
Correct.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask you the question again, Ms. Todd. Would a member of the public, seeing interactions back and forth about hunting on private property in the town of Greenwood with somebody who's got matters involving property use before the town, could you see how that might give an impression of some sort of impropriety, considering that you're the town manager and this person has active matters before the town?
Anyone can have a perception of things however they want to see it. I mean,
Sure.
I can't tell you how other people would think.
And isn't the language here it says town of Greenwood employees and officers are not allowed to receive gifts or gratuities in any personal or professional capacity that could even create the impression that the gift giver was seeking favor or trying to influence an opinion or judgment
It does.
from the employee or official, and it says employee or official, right?
Correct,
So it goes to employees, not just officials like serving on boards, this also applies to employees.
correct,
Right.
such as we discussed earlier.
Right, and it doesn't say will create, it says could create.
Absolutely.
So that means that even the potential of some sort of impropriety by having this email exchange and engaging in this exchange, I mean, it occurred during working hours, right?
I don't know what time.
Okay, let's go ahead and take
Cannot
a,
answer that. No.
let's take a quick look at the emails then. You don't remember at the time you were emailing back and forth with Mr. Kenton?
I don't remember today what time the emails were sent.
Okay. Bear with me 1 moment. Okay, could you please direct your attention to exhibit 24? Let me know when you're there.
I'm here.
Okay, so just looking at these emails, I see one email with Casey Kenton at 10:17 a.m., another email at 12:16 p.m. Flipping further to the back, there's one at 2:17 p.m., another one at 2:17 p.m., another one at 11 after 9 a.m. You were generally emailing Mr. Kenton, it would seem, during normal working hours while you were here, discharging your obligations as town manager, correct?
It would appear so, but in
Okay.
some of these, he's also addressing other things other than hunting.
Right. He's addressing the town
Conditional use.
conditional use permits, the town's plans for various things.
Correct.
Okay. And also you're going back and forth and discussing hunting on a parcel that's in the limits of Greenwood.
I'm not sure if it was at that time, but it was annexed in.
It was eventually annexed.
Yes,
And did you have a similar request that you issued from your town of Greenwood email address to a Mr. Kroll?
Mr. Crowe and I had talked about it verbally, and then I did send an email to him about it. Mr. Crowe still does not own that property, my husband has never stepped foot on it.
Understood, and you sent that email from your town manager email
I
address,
did,
correct?
yes.
And were you friends with Mr. Kroll?
I know his admin assistant. When I met with them, she went to school with my husband, her husband plays softball, so I
Say that
got
again,
to
she
know
went to
him.
school with my husband and then I couldn't hear
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry, he played softball with, her husband played softball with mine. And so I got to know him that way, and Tammy Rust, who was here earlier,
Yeah.
I got to know him through her as well.
So I wanna understand, is it your administrative assistant's husband who's friends, or his administrative
His
assistant?
administrative assistant's husband played ball with my husband.
Okay,
So that's when they came in initially, talked about their project a year or two ago, whenever it was, that's when we first talked about hunting, because my husband already hunted the property when Mrs. Morelli owned it. But when she sold it to Mr. Kroll, he started hunting cats.
so you talked to him about hunting the first time when he came in to talk about a project,
Not hunting his property, about hunting, just about hunting.
generally the topic of hunting.
Correct.
So were you personal friends with him at the time? Because I understood that you had a relationship with Mr. Kenton. What I'm trying to understand is, did you have the same sort of relationship with Mr. Kroll?
No, and I'm gonna give you a name just so you on it. Brittany is his administrative assistant.
Okay.
Her husband Kevin, my husband, are friends, play ball together. She asked if Justin had got a deer, we were talking about it, Mr. Kroll was in the room with us, that's how it started.
Understood. So to the extent that the colloquy before, during your direct examination, was about Mr. Kenton being a friend of yours, and that was being I believe, offered as some sort of mitigating circumstance. You would agree with me that there is no such similar circumstance with Mr. Kroll. He's not like a personal friend of yours like Mr. Kenton.
He's not a personal friend, but I still talk, but he calls me every now and then.
Okay, so in light of that then, because it's a different situation, do you have a different viewpoint at all about the propriety or impropriety of sending an email to Mr. Kroll, who is not your personal friend, asking for the ability of your husband to hunt on his private property?
I do not, because I think did I put LOL after it?
You may have.
Is this page 700, what are we looking at?
I was just asking you general questions right now, but if you're at a particular page, I can,
No, I thought you wrote on a particular.
no, I was just asking you about Mr. Kroll, because that's another name that I
okay.
called.
Yes, in hindsight, I should have sent it from my town email, I should have just, when I seen him, talked to him.
Because it could create the appearance of impropriety.
I guess somebody could take it like that, that's,
Right.
it's all about perception, I guess.
Thank you, Ms. Todd. Moving on from that to the issue of the overtime. So you moved positions, right? You were in one position and you were promoted into another position, correct?
Correct.
And the position you were in before is called, was it finance manager or finance clerk?
Finance clerk.
Okay. So you were in a position, in a role as finance clerk, and then you were promoted into the role of town manager. And was there an increase in salary that came with that promotion?
First, I was interim town manager, and there was no increase. When I became town manager, there was an increase.
And how much of an increase was it?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Do you remember what you were being paid when you were the town finance clerk?
I can only guess. I can't give you an accurate number.
What's your best guess?
I believe when he initially hired me, it was like $15 an hour part-time. Then it went to full-time and I got an increase, but again, I can't give you specific numbers. I don't know.
Okay, and when you became the full-on town manager and you were no longer the acting, did you notice a difference in your paycheck? Did your pay go up?
Yes, but I'm just saying I don't know the number, but yes, it went up.
I understand.
Yes.
Did it go up a few dollars or a few $100s per pay cycle? Like how much was the difference between your pay as a part-time, apparently, finance clerk versus the chief administrative officer of the town?
I would say it went up. I'm, like, again, I can't, do you want a number or do you just
If
want
you
to know if I
have,
see
if you have your best estimate, because I understand you don't remember the specifics, but I'm looking for a best estimate of how much your pay increased when you received that promotion.
I believe the minutes reflected that, they made me permanent town manager at 50,000, I
Okay.
believe, that's a guess.
$50,000.
Yes,
Okay. And what was your average yearly pay, if you can recall, in your 5th year of employment as town manager, which would be the most recent time frame?
I do not know, I just got my W-2 in the mail yesterday, but I haven't looked at it.
Do you recall it for 24?
I do not.
Do you remember it being around $75,000?
I don't know, I don't wanna give you the wrong answers, I do not know.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand. As the town manager sitting here today, you do not in fact recall what you were being paid to be the chief administrative officer of the town of Greenwood?
Not 2 years ago, no,
And not last year either?
no,
Okay. Do you remember how much you were paid roughly in a given pay cycle? You're paid bi-weekly, yes?
no, weekly.
You're paid weekly. How many times have you looked at your weekly pay advice over the course of the 5 years that you've been employed at Greenwood?
I would say frequent, you mean my pay stub?
Yeah.
Frequently.
Okay, so given your frequent review of your pay stub, what is your recollection of your, it doesn't have to be exact, but your rough guesstimate of what you were paid in a given week as the town manager in the most recent year?
I would say take home around $800.
Okay. So, did you get a chance to look at your pay sheets and pay stubs that are in the black binder? Did you look at them in advance of your testimony today?
I didn't, are they the ones we went over yesterday?
Yeah, I think there were some questions asked about them,
Yes,
so you looked at those documents.
I seen those, yes.
And you saw documents where there's writing on them that say salary.
Yes,
On multiple of them, it says salary.
I seen that.
Is that your handwriting?
Some of those were, some of them weren't.
Okay, so some of it was in your own handwriting, writing salary.
Yes.
Okay, so do you understand the difference between a salaried employee and an employee that receives overtime?
I do.
Okay, what's the difference?
The different salary, if they say your $2,000 a week salary, doesn't matter if you work 20 hours or 50 hours, that's what you get.
Okay,
If you're an hourly employee where you get overtime, if you work over your 40 hours, you get time and a half.
understood. So let me ask you about, time and a half per hour, right, over 40?
Time and a half.
Right. So let me ask you some more questions about this. So you mentioned before working or not working, but going to like town events, like the Christmas Bazaar and various things like that.
Correct.
Did you get paid overtime for that?
I did not.
Okay, but you were doing that because you were, working as town manager, right? That's something you were doing vis-a-vis your status as town manager?
It was not a requirement as town manager. I did that because I wanted to do it for the town.
Okay. Now, what about instances in the documents where you stayed late on a given evening for a town council meeting and you didn't pay yourself like $43 or $45 an hour, you just paid yourself a flat 40, even though the timesheet reflects a later start date on the night of the council meeting? Can you explain why there were times you, in fact, did work more than 40 hours a week and didn't process an overtime payment for yourself?
At one point, we could take comp time or flex time, and then that became a thing, and we did away with it in 2022 maybe. There used to be where we could take time off and instead of paying ourselves overtime.
Okay, so there was a sheet that was discussed with Mr. Campanella, and the record will reflect this, but it reflected an 8 a.m. arrival and a 5 p.m. departure for 4 of the days of the week, and an 8 a.m. arrival and an 8 p.m. departure for 1 day of the week, the day that the council meeting took place, from the looks of it. In a circumstance like that, how would you record the use of flex time?
We kept it in a book.
And you didn't put the use of flex time on your timesheet? Like if you clocked out early because you stayed late for a council meeting, the worksheet wouldn't say something like your pay sheet, your actual hour sheet. Well, I clocked in at 8 a.m. and then I left at 3 p.m. and a note about flex time. I could say, having reviewed probably far too many employee pay stubs in my career, whenever I've seen the use of flex time, that's what I've seen. So did you not have a similar practice here?
No, we had there's a binder, I don't know if it's still there. There was a binder in there, and each person had a sheet, and we would record our flex time in there.
So you would agree with me that maintaining accurate pay sheets and so on of employees at any employer, the clock in and clock out sheets, that those time sheets are an important record, right?
I would agree, the binder existed when I came here, that was a policy when I came here.
Right. So why, if someone's actually leaving at a given time because they're flexing their time, would it not be important to reflect that on the actual timesheet with the clock in and clock out?
It's reflected on the pay stubs in what used to be QuickBooks and now ADP, there's notes and it's noted in the note.
Okay, so the only way someone would know is if I'm looking at the actual timesheet that, let me ask you this, are the employees filling out their own timesheets at Greenwood?
There are no timesheets now, unless the police department, I don't know.
When there were timesheets, were the employees filling out their timesheets or were other people
Yes,
filling
no,
out?
everybody's supposed to fill out their own and sign them.
So have you only ever had flex time during the time frame in which ADP existed?
No, pre-ADP,
Pre-ADP, you had flex time.
correct, we used QuickBooks for payroll.
So it stands to reason that if you were clocking out early due to flex time, then you, as the employee using the flex time, would indicate an early sign out on one of your timesheets. Is that fair to say?
You mean using ADP or using QuickBooks?
Using the timesheet, right? Because you've got
Well, there is
a
no
time sheet.
timesheet for ADP,
I'm not talking about ADP.
that's what I'm saying.
We're talking about before ADP right
So you're
now.
talking about QuickBooks payroll.
I'm talking about So let me go ahead and ask you to direct your attention to the timesheets. And as an example, I'll look at Greenwood 124 as one example.
So what section are we in?
We're in section 7.
And what page are we on?
124. So here, I'm seeing 8 to 5, 8 to 5, in and out. And then I see a note that says holiday on Friday. And then there's a total regular hours of 32, and then it says total holiday hours, 8. Total hours paid, 40, J Todd. Are you with me?
Yes,
Okay. So, did you always have flex time prior to ADP, or was it there for some period of time and then not there?
it was just there for a period of time and then council did away with it.
How long was it there, over what time frame?
I cannot answer that, I believe. When they revised the handbook, they changed flex, or maybe they changed comp time, I can't give you a time frame. I don't know. There is
Okay.
2 different occasions, flex time once and comp time once.
So it's your position that every single time in which you would have had over 40 hours reflected on this document called employee timesheet that you filled out for each week, that anytime there was a time where you worked, you know, you had 45 hours, let's say, in a given week, that if you only paid yourself a salary amount, it would be because you simply utilized flex time in that week?
I'm not sure, I did not use flex time every week, if that was the question.
No, that's not the question. I'll find the specific example I'm thinking of, because it's not too far into the records. So I do want to, while I'm looking for this particular one I'm thinking of, could you turn your attention to Greenwood 54? And you see there where it says salary,
I do,
and at the bottom it says supervisor,
that's my signature.
that's your signature, so this is your handwriting
It
then?
is, I wrote salary because it's just a plain 40 and I just wrote that across.
Okay, and that's the same reason you wrote salary on Greenwood 56?
Yes, it was just a plain 40.
So when you say it's just a plain 40, is it your testimony today that you wrote salary on these pay sheets because it was only 40 and not in fact because you were salaried?
Correct.
Okay,
And then there were times that I would write that because Carolyn did payroll and that way she knew there was no other thing, just flat 40.
so your testimony today is that you were writing salaried on your timesheets, not because you were salaried, but because you just worked 40 hours.
Correct.
So are you saying that Carolyn Chisenhall would not look down and see that you just worked 40 hours on a timesheet where you have the word salary, and she wouldn't just pay you 40 hours, that she needed the salary there to know to just pay you 40 hours?
Carolyn had several issues with entering payroll, including when I would go on vacation, I would have to log in remote to help her with payroll, so that was the easiest way I could tell her, just write salary.
So could you turn your attention to Greenwood 66, please? Let me know when you're there.
I'm there.
So this timesheet says 6/6/22 to 6/12/22. Do you see that?
I do.
And you see where the in and out for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday are all 8 to 5?
I do.
And do you see where on Wednesday it says 8 to 8?
I do.
And do you see where it says total regular hours 40 parentheses salary?
Yes.
Why would this timesheet reflect hours worked beyond 40, which is what would happen if you work from 8 to 8, and then have no indication of flex time, because you said that's what would happen sometimes when that would transpire, and then you would not be paid overtime.
If I took flex time or comp time, it would have been in that binder.
So let me,
Normally, it was noted on here.
okay, so let me just make sure it's clear. When you take flex time or comp time, are you actually leaving work early, like working fewer hours in that day? That's what that means, right?
Like if you have 45 hours and you want to flex or use comp time for the other 5.
Okay, so your position would be that if we were to look in that binder that you're referencing, that this would show that one of these days, where in fact you have listed 8 to 5, that in actuality, some of those hours on the 8 to 5 day would reflect flex time for some of those hours.
Possibly, this was 3 years ago.
I
don't remember, but
understand.
that would be my guess.
So why wouldn't you just, because this is, these timesheets, and you filled them out, some of them out much more recently than 3 years ago. So are these timesheets supposed to reflect when you actually came in and when you actually left the office?
Yes, that was what they were meant for.
Okay, so if they're meant to reflect when you actually came in and when you actually came out, why wouldn't there be an indication, if you utilize flex time on this timesheet, of you leaving early on one of these days in order to see a decrease on the day so that we come out to an even 40?
And again, I don't know that that's what I did. I don't know, this was 3 years ago, I don't know, I can't answer your question honestly.
Okay, so, who did you go to get approval for the overtime that you paid yourself?
On this time? Or you mean in
Just
general?
throughout the entirety of your tenure?
I did not get, approved for overtime, nobody that works here has ever done that.
Okay, so is the employee handbook just like a suggestion, or are they actually rules that you're supposed to follow as an employee?
There was no way to get, approval from overtime from the council, they only had a meeting once a week, or once a month, and if overtime came up in between there, where were you gonna get overtime approval from?
So Mike, so obviously you're the supervisor, right? You're the chief of HR of the town, right?
I'm not the chief of HR, no.
So in your capacity as the town manager, you didn't oversee HR matters?
I did not oversee HR, and that wasn't one of my job descriptions.
Okay.
I processed payroll of HR.
So the charter doesn't say that you're supposed to oversee direct employees other than yourself as the town manager?
I don't believe the charter states that I am the HR manager.
Would you agree with me, so that we're not just quibbling over terminology, that one of your roles as the town manager was to supervise the other employees?
Not necessarily, I mean.
So you weren't the
Police
supervisor?
department, that's not, anything to do with the town manager.
I understand, so
Over
you
here.
weren't Carolyn Chisenhall's supervisor then?
I would say I was, yes.
Were you Roger Breeding's supervisor?
Yes,
Okay, so if they worked overtime, did you in fact approve their timesheet to confirm that the overtime they actually worked was properly earned?
after the fact, not before.
Of course, so you were reviewing and approving overtime after it was worked. And you would be able to talk to the person and say, did you really work this overtime, or was this right, or, you'd be able to verify in your capacity as the manager of the town that the overtime was in fact actually worked.
Maybe I misunderstood the question, I thought you meant, we get approved for overtime before we worked it?
So, no, I'm just asking,
Okay,
did
so-
you ever get approval for overtime? And I'm exploring right now the way the process was for addressing overtime, right?
Yes.
So in the handbook, it very clearly states that all overtime is to be approved. So what I'm asking is, in your capacity as you've said many a time, and there's emails to this effect, that you're the chief administrative officer of the town, essentially the ranking non-elected employee of the town, was asking you whether you reviewed and approved the overtime of your subordinates. And I believe you just confirmed that you did. Is that
Correct,
fair?
that's fair.
Okay. And you said to me before that your supervisor is in fact the members of council,
Correct.
right? So if they're your supervisor and the handbook says that supervisors are to approve overtime, is there a reason why you just confirmed that you never went to council and said, I would like to get overtime paid for this work that I did?
There's no reason, no council never approved time sheets
Okay,
for either department.
so is it you're acknowledging then, as I sit here today, that you paid yourself overtime without the approval of council?
Yes,
Okay,
as an hourly employee.
and is that concerning to you, considering the handbook clearly states that you're to get the approval of your supervisor, and you just said that council is my supervisor?
It is not, because the policy was not for council to approve time sheets.
Okay, so what policy would there be to say that council should not approve a timesheet in a situation where it says the supervisor should be the approver of overtime, and you're clearly indicating that the council is your supervisor? So can you point to me something that would definitively make you take the position in the handbook, in the charter somewhere, that you were under no obligation to seek approval for payment of overtime, even if we assume that you were an hourly employee?
I don't have any document to give you now, is that
Okay.
your question?
Yes, that's my question.
Yeah.
So, could you understand, again, as the person who is in charge of the affairs of the town, right? You were the town manager. You were running the day-to-day of the town. That was your responsibility, correct?
Correct.
So as an individual who's running the day-to-day responsibilities of the town, you're reviewing and approving to make sure that the overtime of your subordinates was actually worked. Could you understand how that's a significant breakdown in oversight, that there's no one reviewing and approving your overtime, that there's nobody there to confirm that it's actually being worked and properly being addressed?
I don't feel that it's an oversight on my part, because like I said, it's never been a policy for council to come in and approve time sheets.
So you're under no obligation as the chief administrative officer of the town for the last 5 years to make any suggestions at all about how to improve the operations of the town? That's not something that you do?
That would be a handbook situation, and they had Mr. Wilcox for that.
Okay, so,
And I've mentioned many times about discussing things in the handbook. You probably, I don't know who has the minutes, month after month after month, it was tabled this year, as a matter of fact. I could not get them to discuss the handbook.
so I want to understand this for a moment. So, you think that Mr. Wilcox is okay to oversee issues involving overtime, although you're also involved in approving overtime hours worked of your subordinates, but it should have been Mr. Wilcox. However, let me ask you this, if it were a FOIA issue, would you oversee the FOIA response, or would Mr. Wilcox oversee the FOIA response?
I did not say Mr. Wilcox would approve overtime. I was talking about he was the one that was revising the handbook. And that's when we were trying to make changes as far as overtime and things.
I'm just trying to understand your view of what your responsibilities are as the chief administrative officer of the town, who's also responsible for all financial matters of the town.
Correct.
Would you agree with me that payment of payroll and overhead is one of a number of the financial facets of the town of Greenwood?
I absolutely would, and if
Right.
you look at all the time sheets, I worked many hours I did not get paid for.
So that raises another question. Considering that you're paying yourself overtime and no one's approving it, does that seem like a situation where it's possible to do some sort of, when you're talking about audit of the books of the town, if an auditor came in and wanted to confirm what hours were actually worked and what happened, and you're in charge of the financial aspects of the town, how would you provide information to an auditor who wanted to come in and make sure that these hours were actually worked, and in fact they were worked?
The time sheets, or now ADP would print a report and they would get the binder. That's how it's always, that's what the auditors always have done.
But did we not just have a discussion about how the timesheets might not actually reflect when people actually came in and left?
Yes, and I said if they used flex time, it was in the binder.
Okay. So, I would like to ask you a few questions just to clean up the last few items. If you'll just bear with me one moment, please. As the town manager, do you have responsibility to oversee vendors that are hired to address contracts that the town executes with them?
Oversee them, you mean such as if there's gonna be a project?
Make sure that they're following through and following their contract. Would you monitor contracts and make sure they're following their contract?
Yes,
So you-
myself and Roger Breeden.
Right, so, or if it were a contract for professional services, right? Like, for example, you hire an IT firm, right? And they're contracted to deliver IT services. Would you not be the sort of eyes and ears of council to be able to report back and say this IT situation is working out or isn't working out, and you report to the town council and advise them of whether or not the IT vendor is doing their job. Is that fair to say?
I would not advise them every time we had a vendor, like I did not give frequent reports on all our vendors, if that's the question.
If they weren't doing their job, would you let council know?
Not unless I felt they need to be involved, because if I was in charge to run the daily things of the town, I need to handle it, unless it was a situation that needed to come to council.
Understood. So there were times where you directly just handled situations with vendors, and there were times where you reported to council. But either way, you don't dispute the fact that you had oversight of the town's vendors who were retained to deliver services in town.
Yeah, and I don't know what kind of issues you're talking about with the vendors, so.
I'm just asking generally about your,
If it was something
authority.
simple, such as they were contracted to do something, they did not do it,
right.
I would attempt to resolve it, yes. If it could not be resolved, then it would go to council.
Right, and that's why we saw a bunch of emails back and forth about how you were very concerned about being the point of contact for PKS. So you were the point of contact for PKS because, one of your responsibilities was overseeing vendors, correct?
That, and because there was getting so much information misconstrued because so many people were calling them. Okay,
so the issue involving PKS's non-attendance at the July 2025 council meeting, do you recall your direct examination testimony on that?
I remember talking about it.
Okay, so do you deny the fact that you eventually told Ashley Stern that she did not have to attend the July meeting?
Was that the one that Mr. Massey told me to tell her?
That would be
I don't
the one in
remember
the same.
dates.
The one in the same.
Yes, Mr. Massey advised me to tell her not to come because she had a prior engagement and it was going to be $1,000, and he did not want that on the town.
Does Mr. Massey have the authority to overrule a vote of the entire council?
The mayor scheduled it by him, so he called and would make her come to the meeting, so why couldn't Mr. Massey cancel?
Does Mr. Massey have the authority to overrule a vote of town council? Yes or no?
Not if it was a vote, no.
No. So when there was a vote on the issue of having PKS come and attend, and you emailed roughly 1 week before the July council meeting, and the response back was that we need additional time. And then there was a back and forth, and eventually on the 14th you said, Mr. Massey said you don't have to come because of the $1,000. You were in fact using Mr. Massey's statement to you as justification to countermand a vote of council. Is that accurate?
No.
Why is it not
I was doing what Mr. Massey directed me to do.
Is Mr. Massey the king of the town?
No, and neither are the other four. They all
So-
have the same duties.
So council voting together to say we want PKS to show up is not like a valid order of town council that we would like you to please have PKS show up at the next meeting?
I thought you meant who has more,
I am just
thought that
asking-
chain of command.
I am solely asking about a vote of council that something shall happen. You would agree with me that voting to ask PKS to come in June to the July council meeting is a lawful vote of council. There's nothing illegal about that.
If there was a
request.
vote, yes, I don't
Right.
remember. If there
Well,
was a
I'll
vote.
represent to you that there was, and the minutes reflect that.
If there was, it
So-
was, yes.
Let's, so understanding that there was a vote and that council directed 4 items to happen. One of them was having PKS show up. When you spoke to Mr. Massey, and he said, well, if it's $1,000, I don't think that this person should have to come, and then you followed up and directed them not to come, would you agree that that was not appropriate, considering council had voted on the subject of having PKS attend the subsequent meeting?
Yes, but I did not think that was July. It happened on 2 separate occasions, 2 different things, but if that's what happened, then yes.
That's what the documents reflect.
Okay, I don't know the dates. is what I'm
Understood.
saying,
It was
yes.
the June meeting, there was a vote that happened, and then at the following July meeting, there were emails back and forth. You'll remember during your direct examination testimony that there were some questions about why did you only reach out a week before the meeting, and you said, well, looking at how many months they would have to have in advance, it wouldn't have mattered. Do you remember that back and forth?
I do remember that discussion.
Okay, so do you think that a vote of council asking you to take action is something that you should proceed with expeditiously?
I would say Yes, but I also felt that it was no different than when the council voted to use ADP and the mayor told me not to. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, I mean, I'm not asking you about ADP, we can always turn to that
I'm
if
just
you,
saying it's the
if you
same
would like,
authority.
but what I'm asking you specifically about is a vote of council for a very specific thing to happen, which is for the noted vendor of the town to attend the July meeting. And in that case, you're not now denying the fact that, you, because of a direction by a single member of council, countermanded an instruction, essentially a vote on the record of the entire council. You're not disagreeing that that happened.
I'm not, I would also say that's not the only time it's ever happened with different council members. So
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing.
So would you say that because something wrong has happened once, that makes it acceptable going forward?
No, I was just letting you know it happened more than once.
I appreciate that information, ma'am. So I would like to direct you to a copy of the town charter, if you have it in front of you. If not, I can.
Black binder or white binder?
I don't think it's in a particular binder. We made copies of the town charter.
Okay.
Okay. So on page 11 of the charter, section 19F, let me know when you've arrived at section 19F.
Okay.
So in section 19F, at the second sentence, it says, "It is the intention of this charter in the town that the town manager is guided solely by matters of expedience and efficiency in the administration of the affairs of the town placed in the manager's charge." Do you see that? At 19, section F, page 11.
Yes, I do see that.
Okay, and do you see how on the next page under 12, it says the town manager shall do all of the following? G7, the town manager shall perform other duties as may be prescribed by this charter or required by ordinance or resolution of the town council.
I do.
Okay, so when council asked you to please reach out and took a vote on it and directed that PKS attend the subsequent council meeting, and you did not, in fact, reach out to PKS regarding their attendance until 1 week prior to the following council meeting, is that pace, in your view, expediently discharging a direct vote of council?
I think you asked, I feel like you asked me the same question or I'm confused. Are you asking me about this specifically
It's a
or the
permutation of the same question, which is, you said you didn't understand why you waited until a week before, even though the vote occurred a month prior, to reach out to PKS. So in essence, my question is, why not reach out the week after or a few days after to PKS for the purpose of having them come, considering that there was a vote of council, there was a lengthy discussion the council had about a desire to get a handle on the audit situation, and it did not happen. In fact, the inquiry to have the auditors come did not transpire until a week prior to the council meeting.
I guess my confusion is, are you referencing G7 to this, or you're just asking that?
I'm referencing G7 as your authority, and I'm asking you, in light of your authority and obligations under the charter, why did you not do that expeditiously?
Well, G7 says required by ordinance or resolution, neither of which there was, if I interpret it that way, but I don't have an answer to your question.
So you don't think that a vote of council should be digested expeditiously or promptly if council has a multi-hour discussion about an audit?
No,
and the
yes,
status
my
of-
answer to that is yes.
Please let me finish my question. If council has a multi-hour discussion about audits, and they're trying to get to the bottom of things, and they say, Ms. Todd, we'd really like it if you could have the auditor come in person at the next council meeting. And that's I believe it was a unanimous vote of council, so there was no dissent. And they're having this lengthy discussion there, and the audit situation has been going on for half a decade, I believe, at the time that vote was taken. Given all of those circumstances, can you please explain why you felt that request was not important enough to warrant an outreach more swiftly than nearly a month after the vote itself?
I did not think it was not important. It could have fell by the wayside because of everything going on. I don't know what happened.
What are the other things that were going on that would be
Carolyn-
less significant then a unanimous vote by council to address an audit situation that has put the town in a posture where it is in violation of its own charter for half a decade. What else is more important than that?
Objection, but
What else is more important,
I'll withdraw the objection.
given the circumstances?
Again, I don't remember, we could've came in, the town's flooded, so I don't know what happened in between, I'm not saying that's what did. But I don't know if something happened that prevented me because there was something else going on in the office. I don't know the answer to your
Do you
question.
recall a flood happening in that month?
I don't recall that date at all. I mean, I don't remember back then.
How long did it take you to send the email that you sent? Do you recall how long it took you to type it up and send it?
I don't recall.
Did it take you an hour?
I don't
Mr. Del Polo,
recall.
I think we really hit this topic quite
Understood.
thoroughly.
Moving on from the issue of the attendance of PKS, do you recall the contents of, I'll flip back to the other exhibit real quick. The issue of the complaint that was received by the officer, or about the officer, let me
Am I referring to
rephrase.
something in here?
Not yet.
Oh, okay,
I may be able to digest this one without having to refer to anything.
okay.
Do you remember following up with anyone else aside from the councilwoman that you referenced who said she didn't think it was significant about that complaint that came in?
Is that the email received about the
Yes.
one officer?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
sorry. What
one
was your
mistake.
question?
I believe you said that a councilwoman, you showed it to her
Yes,
and she didn't think it was serious.
correct.
Did that councilwoman have the ability to decide on behalf of all of council whether that was serious or not? Or would it really need to be something, if there's a complaint that comes in about a peace officer that is an employee of the town, wouldn't that be something that would be necessary to address in front of council?
The email was about his application to police chief, which he did not have one. So Councilwoman Jones was like, it's irrelevant, he's not
So how-
trying to be chief.
So how do you decide whether or not complaints about law enforcement officers?
I don't,
So you don't decide that, but you thought that one council member was enough to
we had
say
no
this isn't
police,
important?
yeah, we had no police chief, she was in here and I showed it to her, so yes, I did do that.
Okay. So you agree, aside from that one council member, you didn't share with anybody else?
I did not share with any other council people that I'm aware of, I don't remember.
And did you ever do anything like take a photo of the email and give it to the officer in question?
That I don't remember either, the email probably came to my phone, but I don't know, I don't know the answer. I don't remember. I did ask him that, I don't remember.
So regarding the K-9 program, there were some items that Chief Walton testified to that came up in the course of his testimony. And I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions about that. Do you remember a situation where there were grant monies that were earmarked for a particular purpose that ended up getting deposited in the general fund? Do you remember that line of questioning?
I remember discussing grant monies and the K-9.
Okay. How would it be that grant monies that are specifically earmarked for a particular purpose would get deposited into the general fund versus held aside so that they could be tracked and utilized for the purpose required in the grant?
You mean if there was a grant ACH deposit?
That's right.
The police department controls that over there, and we give a long time, they've had the bank account information, and I believe it's called sam.gov, I don't,
Say that again, it's called what?
sam.gov.
Thank you.
And they have a program, and they get deposited into wherever they tell Homeland Security or wherever to go.
Okay. So do you have any idea how it was that money, I believe it was roughly $6,000 of an earmarked grant, ended up in the general fund as opposed to set aside for the police use?
Which, I don't know which grant you're talking about.
So
Is that the
it
Homeland
was,
Security?
that's right, the Homeland Security grant.
Because that wasn't, the auditors told us that was not a grant, and they told Chief and I that together, that was seizure money from, I don't know if it was drugs or, it was seizure money.
Right.
And then they had the right to request that seizure money for certain items, but she said it was not classified as a grant.
Okay, so did you review the letter that, when it was received, that said, okay, here's this seizure money? Did you understand at all?
I didn't get that letter.
Okay,
The chief got those.
So you reviewed nothing in the context of what the seizure money was or what it should be used for?
No, sir, the chief refused to give me those documents.
Okay, so when you say the chief, which chief? Because I think these deposits happened far before the current chief.
It would, you're talking about the original Homeland Security, $6,040.
That's right.
$400 some dollars, something, that would have been Brett Raleigh then.
Say it again for me.
Brett Raleigh, or
Brent or Brent?
Brett, Raughleigh.
Thank you.
And he had, an admin, Shelley, over there, and she controlled those documents. There's a lot of documents I was not allowed to see.
Okay, so at that time, you're saying that they didn't share that information with you, so you didn't know that it was going to the general fund? That's your testimony?
I knew it went into the general fund, but again, I was told by Sergeant Cullen, who was a Cullen, who was a previous police sergeant over there, that money was seizure money, was not grant money.
Okay, so when it came to light that the seizure money, more recently, I believe in 2025, around May or June of 2025, when the canine situation was sort of heating up, we'll use that word, that term, when you found out that it went to the general fund, and was not in fact set aside to be utilized pursuant to the restrictions of Homeland Security seizure money for, I believe, a drug bust, right? Which can only be used for public safety purposes, that's the restriction. So when you found out that it in fact ended up in the general fund and wasn't set aside to be tracked for public safety purposes, did you take any steps after that to try to eliminate or address the circumstances which led this to be deposited in the general fund?
I was never told what it could be used for. I was told it could be used for police general operating expenses by the previous, not by
Okay.
Chief Wall, previously. And the auditor said then you can leave it right in the general account. So that's where it stays.
Okay, so the auditor, you're telling me the auditor said that you can leave money that was earmarked for public safety only in the general fund, but not in a fund set aside for like the police department?
That seizure money, she said, could stay in the general account, yes.
And which auditor was that?
I believe Erica, the day when they were here, but I'm not sure. It was one of the females.
Did she review the guidance or the instructions that came when the deposit came in?
She went over with the chief. I don't know what she looked at over there.
And you never had the chance to look at those
No, he
documents?
would not speak back in front of me. He told her to come over there, so.
So what about, there's another line of questioning involving receipts for the audit and how the chief and I believe the lieutenant was trying to acquire receipts the auditors had requested. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Receipts.
Receipts, like from payments that were made or items that were charged against various accounts, like backup documents to confirm what these charges were about. Do you recall that line of
Such as
questioning?
purchases.
Such as purchases.
Yes, I do remember
Right.
them requesting some things from them.
Right, so do you recall the line of questioning where it was discovered that there were public works charges that were being debited against the police department's?
So, yes, one
Account.
invoice for some Stenner pumps, I do remember that.
Say that again, what kind of pumps?
Stenner, Stenner.
Thank you.
And how would it come to be that there are public works fees, essentially costs being applied not to public works, but to the police department instead?
It was a mistake. It quickly was applied to the wrong line item.
And that kind of brings me to another question towards the end here. Did you ever ask Ms. Chisenhall for assistance with managing any of the financial items of the town?
As far as which financial items? She entered all the payments, she did all the bank deposits, she put all the deposits in quickly,
Right.
so she was involved in the financial.
Did she do anything else aside from entering in payments, like you were saying? I believe she testified to the water bill
Yes.
being handling. So is it your impression then that she had a bunch of responsibility over the town's finances, or not
No.
very much, or?
Not very much. I would say 25%,
Okay, so she had a limited oversight.
correct.
So,
But she knew how to do everything, most of everything, because she had instructions just as I did, so in case somebody was out sick, because there's only two of us.
do you know why it would be that the vendor receipts and charges and so forth were in binders, not organized by year? Do you have any sense of how that came to be the
You mean
case?
the files?
Yeah, the files of records from
Absolutely.
the vendors.
We had no room, no filing cabinets, and when we met with the auditor's team, she advised us to get more filing cabinets and split them down, and just not long before I was suspended, 2 brand new filing cabinets arrived. And Carolyn and I started setting them up, and I don't know what happened after that.
Okay, so, Ms. Todd, as you know, the issue of the audits has been a long-running concern for council. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
And there have been times throughout your tenure where council has directed you to take various steps, various actions to address the audit. Is that fair to say?
yes,
And you'll agree that there was no separate tax collector assigned to the town, so when the town charter references a tax collector, that would be responsibilities that would fall to you?
as far as billing or
Yeah,
collecting the money.
There's a particular title in the town charter, I believe it's either tax collector or tax assessor.
Correct.
So that, because there was no separate tax assessor, that would mean that those responsibilities would fall to you.
Carolyn and I both did that.
Okay.
Not 50-50, but we both assisted in doing that.
So you'd agree with me, though, that because there was no separate individual assigned, as far as the charter was concerned, without a separate person appointed to that role, it fell to you per the charter?
Possibly,
You wouldn't dispute that?
but there's only two of us, so we had to split duties as best we could.
I understand, I'm just
So
talking
I can
about,
only take so much.
I'm just
But
talking
yes,
about what the charter
things did
says.
fall to me, but at one point, I can't do it all, so I would try to delegate something.
Are you disagreeing that that's what the charter says?
No,
Okay, so, understanding all of that, and given your testimony that you were the point of contact with the auditors, do you believe that you have any involvement, role, responsibility whatsoever involving the status of the audits and the fact that they weren't complete over the course of 5 years?
I do not believe I delayed the audits, no.
Well, I'm not asking about delay, right now I'm just asking if you think that you had any responsibility, given all of the interaction, you're saying that you had, and that we just confirmed that you had. You know, do you have any, I think there were some responses on direct examination to a variety of witnesses, you were in the room when they happened, about how, well, the charter doesn't say that you have to conduct an audit, so therefore you have no responsibility for it. That's what I sort of understand your position to be at this hearing. And what I'm asking you is that given the request directed to you from council, given the fact that you were the tax assessor, which is specifically called out in the audit section as someone who has to interact with the auditor, and given your numerous interactions with them, do you disagree as you sit here today that you had any responsibility regarding the interactions with the auditors, the status of the audits?
I don't disagree that I had responsibility to the audits, but it was not my sole responsibility.
I understand. So if you're the point of contact with the auditors and you're the liaison between what council is asking for and what they're doing as auditors, who else would it fall to make sure that they're moving things along and resolving these audits on a timely basis?
I was a sole point of contact for a very short period of time. The mayor was the main point of contact. He took it over and.
So for the 5 years that the audits were behind, the mayor was the main point of contact for the
No, I
audits?
said for a short period of time. I didn't mean like 5 minutes, but as it went on, I was the point of contact. And the previous mayor was involved as appointed. He took over, and then this mayor took over. So I'm just saying there was a lot of parties involved. I was not the main point of contact.
Okay, so when you said you're not the main point of contact, we just, there's a very lengthy series of direct examination questions that happened roughly an hour ago now, with you saying about how you're the one who reaches out to the auditor and you feel it should stay that way.
Mhm.
So was there any point in time where you were the main point of contact? Or
Yes.
was it always the case that there were multiple people involved?
No, when PKS and I started working on it, I was the main point of contact.
Okay,
That was when Mr. Torben, I believe, was mayor.
okay. So you would agree with me that members of council are not full-time council members, right? They have other jobs and obligations aside from their council function.
Yes,
And given that you're the chief administrative officer of the town, is there any other employee, setting aside the council members, as a practical matter, who would be responsible for making sure that the audits that are mandated in the charter are moving expeditiously?
no other employee, no,
Okay.
not Carolyn or Roger.
Understood. I have no further questions.
Redirect?
Yeah, you got some questions about this grievance process. So basically, you were you emailed the grievances to Vice Mayor Massey because he was one of the few individuals that wasn't named as a individual you were grieving against, correct?
Correct.
So do you think it would be, put you in an awkward situation to, file issue, or at least report a grievance to a person who you're grieving against?
Absolutely.
In fact, in the town, employment book, I think it gives like, you're the subject, if the town manager is the one you're grieving against, it gives them an alternative way to, grieve against, because it would be weird for a subordinate to file a grievance against you, to you, right?
Correct.
That wouldn't make any sense.
No,
Okay. So that's why you directed it to Vice Mayor Massey?
correct,
Okay, and we're talking about HR, there's no HR department here, is there?
no,
I mean, there's other companies out there that have managers of employees, but have a separate human resources department.
correct,
Okay, so you're not, none of your employment in the charter doesn't say anything, you being in charge of human resources.
no,
Regarding to this notice, to the meeting to PKS, there were circumstances revolving around, getting PKS, that prohibited PKS from going to that meeting, correct?
yes, they had a prior engagement,
They had prior engagement, and a month really, you know, you might have had other important items going on that month that we don't know about, correct?
absolutely,
Okay, and PKS even said, it's not really practical for us to meet on a monthly basis,
correct,
okay? And Mayor Cesno was part of that process, right, as far as getting them there?
correct, he communicated with them quite a bit,
He actually had, I think, a conference call with them prior to the meeting, right?
correct,
So he could have said, hey, we really need you to come here now.
correct,
Okay. And there was issue, and it seemed like PKS wasn't, keen on coming to a monthly meeting, did it seem?
no, they had, she told me they were extremely busy, and they could come when they had something worth bringing to update, but they could not attend every month.
Okay.
And that was not in their RFP when they did the job.
Now, regarding the overtime issue, had you previously, when you were, there were, individuals above you that knew that you took overtime, is that correct?
Correct.
And who would that be?
Mayor Torbert was aware of it, Councilwoman Jones was aware of it, but, I don't remember exactly who else, but
Okay,
previous mayor.
so that was kind of like the standard of procedure, they knew that you were taking overtime at times, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and, they didn't do any kind of pre-approval of that process?
No, and when Councilman Russell were here, he would request copies of the pay sheets every week and go over them when he came in to sign
Okay.
paperwork.
Your pay sheets weren't hidden somewhere in a secret file, right?
No,
Now, in the charter specifically itself, says every year the council has to issue a request for an annual audit, right?
correct,
And that's to an independent auditor, correct?
yes,
And how many years did they do that during your time here?
none,
And that's obligated under the town charter, section 23, right?
yes,
And as the town manager, you can't issue that's up to them, mandated by the charter.
correct.
I don't have further questions.
Here we cross?
Yes, so, thank you, hearing officer. You said that Doreen Jones was someone who knew you were working overtime.
Yes,
Can you point me to the affidavit you submitted of Doreen Jones and show me in there where it says she was authorizing your overtime or reviewing and accepting your overtime submissions? If it says it.
I don't know, is it in this white book?
Yeah, I believe it's in the white book, exhibit 69,
The very last document.
last one.
It does not specifically say that she authorized my overtime.
So this is a statement that was prepared in anticipation of it being introduced here today, correct? That's the only reason why this statement was prepared, right? So
Yes.
so that her impressions of the matters that council was considering could be part of the record.
But I don't know that she knew overtime was going to be discussed because that wasn't an issue on my suspension notice, that it was even an issue, so. I mean, I don't know, this is the paper she gave me.
So this is dated January 14th, 2026.
Correct. I picked it up from the hospital, she's in the hospital.
And this was issued after you received the notice of intent to terminate, correct? Which was issued back in December?
Yes, but she wasn't on council when I got that, so I did not share that with her.
Okay, so did you talk to her at all about, could you please issue a statement for me about the matters you've been involved in to help with this matter?
I did not discuss the notice to terminate with her, no. She was in the hospital, like I said.
Okay.
She just said she wanted to give me this, and so I picked it up.
Just a final few questions, Ms. Todd. There was a lot of discussion about how you felt that you've been harassed and retaliated against, and, there were some questions about that in your direct examination testimony. Can you please describe exactly what sort of harassment you were subject to?
From a particular person or just in general?
If you could give me an example of the harassment you're talking about, please, by anyone.
It was a constant thing to make demands of me that could not be met, and then when I did not make them, it was a big issue. I was holding things from people. For instance, at one point, I received an email in the morning from a council person. I need a copy of all the bank statements by 1 o'clock. And this was 8:30 in the morning. Carolyn comes in at 9, but Carolyn's off that day. I responded, you're gonna have to give me a little bit of time. Carolyn's not here, but I'll get them to you. It became an email exchange of, I told you I want them, blah, blah, blah. And they were in the mailbox for them, and the very next morning at 7:30, they never picked them up. So it was like I was given demands that I could not meet, and then I was chastised for it.
So you think a request for information like that, those statements you're referencing aren't information that wasn't available to you, right?
No, I'm not saying the request for information was an issue, I'm saying they would give me timeframes I could not meet. I
So
have no problem giving them information.
was the time frame in that particular example you're referencing later on adjusted? Did you go back and say, hey, I can't get this in that time?
Several emails were exchanged until the mayor at that time got involved.
Right, and was that time frame to get the items that were being requested adjusted so that you could ultimately get the items together?
It was changed to, okay, you have until 3 o'clock. And I was
Okay.
like, literally, Carolyn's not here, it's me by myself, I assure you I will get them, they will be in your mailbox by tomorrow morning, and they were. I did. And I also, there was a signer on the counter, I said, or if you need something quicker from the bank, you know,
And when were you chastised about this? That this
at the
particular
very next
example?
meeting, well, the email exchange were back and forth, and then the mayor met with me about it.
Okay, the mayor chastised you?
Yes, he did.
Okay, about getting, well, what exactly were these documents?
It was the, current month's bank statements.
And is this email exchange that you're referencing, to your knowledge, anywhere in this white binder or anywhere in the black binder in front of you? Is it something
No,
you?
because that council person's no longer on the council.
So,
I don't know if it's in there. but-
so the example you just gave me is an example of a council person no longer on the council.
And it was the same issue with Mr. Nelson.
Okay, so when did Mr. Nelson demand something of you within a handful of hours?
I don't have dates, and I don't know if it's hours, but he gave me a list of things that he needed. And again, I'm thinking back, it might have been about the K-9 or something. I did not have time to do it right that minute, and then it was, at the next meeting, he's like, who's your boss? Who's your boss? It just became an issue. I have no problem giving them anything, or they could come in here any day of the week. And Carol and I are in here, and if we had time, we would certainly give it to them, but it was more of a, I don't even know how to explain it, but no council people would ever come in here and ask for something at all.
So your view is that requests in email for documents pertinent to matters the council is considering are harassment? Is that your testimony today?
I'm not saying asking for documents is harassment, no. I'm saying the way it was handled got to be too much. It become harassment, it was hostile, toxic. I mean, I offered many times, please come in.
And what made it toxic though? Was it the request? Was it the response that council said, like, why were these documents not provided when you came back to the
It
next
was,
council meeting? What exactly was it that made it hostile?
it was the tone, it was when they would come here to pick up their packet, they would walk in, hey Carolyn, look at me, walk right by me. I mean, and I would reach out, they wouldn't answer me, it just became.
So your view then is that an act of harassment is someone not saying something to you?
That's a portion of it, yes.
So you were harassed in effect by folks not uttering words to you?
I didn't say, you asked me how it was toxic, you didn't, that harassment's not speaking to me.
So to you, the harassment is something different than the toxicity?
Yes, harassment is the just constant badgering, back and forth and back and forth. The behavior in here is toxic, and then when you've got council people, I don't know how to say this, when you've got council people, it just became hostile, I won't say it.
Okay.
I didn't
So-
hear it, you said hostile, I couldn't hear the rest.
That, I said I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say.
Okay, so you're not then saying that someone not greeting you, I think that's what you're describing, or saying hello to you, you're not saying that that's harassment, you're saying that's toxic. So
Correct.
those are two different things in your view
Correct,
of the situation, okay.
that's under my definition.
Understood.
Should now call it, can we wrap this up?
Yeah, that was, I was getting to it. So aside from those examples that you gave of request for information and not greeting you at times, were there other examples of harassment you can point to?
There were other things that happened, just like I said, in the council meetings, the constant disrespect, the constant tone of the voice, it was always a come at Janet, come at Janet, come at Janet. And they would ask me a question, but I wasn't allowed to answer it. And if, I don't know if you went back and watched any of the meetings, but that became a regular thing.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Do council members, the hearing panel members have any questions of this witness? With that, witness?
Ms. Todd, I just have one question, just for clarity. On one of these timesheets where it says, discussed with mayor, and I believe it was on Greenwood 23, it said begin salary discussed with mayor.
That's when Mr. Donovan told me I was salary, but then it did not go to council.
I understand, but according to several pages, it shows that it says salary for months. At what point did you start going back and paying yourself the overtime?
All the
And-
dates and times are in QuickBooks on notes under my name.
Okay.
When Mr. Donovan came in, there's a date and a time, what he said, it's all in the notes. I
So
don't
you,
have it.
when, after that time when he did that, you started paying yourself salary and then,
No. Like, I wrote salary on there if it was just a standard week, but I never, like,